You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to be talking about England versus Bangladesh. The three-match series has wrapped up. England won 2-1 in the first match. Milan notched a ton. In the second match, England did a stomping. Jason Roy got some runs. And in the third match, England lost the dead rubber on a slightly slower, lower wicket, where they chose to bat Sam Curran at number 5. We'll be talking about all of that and a little bit more. But first, we need to talk about our title sponsor for this episode, manscaped.com. We can get you a sweet discount on your Manscaped gear, your Lawnmower 4.0, your Boxers 2.0, your ball deodorant. Using the code CricketPod, you get 20% off, as I said, and free shipping over at manscaped.com. Max, over to you.
Over to me. What aspect would you like me to talk about?
Oh, no, it's dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice. Well,
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned the ball deodorant. That's actually really nice.
Yeah, it is good.
I'm a big fan of that. It's anti-chafing, which is always good, especially as it gets to those slightly warmer summer days.
Yeah.
Spring's just around the corner. Forget the fact that it was snowing today in the UK. Spring is around the corner and it is going to get warmer. And that is
to be fair, in cold weather, you might put a pair of long johns on, then you got your jeans, big coat.
That's true.
Can be quite sweaty in the old package area.
Can be. So well then in that case, not only do you need the ball deodorant, Jack, you need your ball toner as well. Nice little bit of spray at the end of the day to refresh your crown jewels down below. All of that comes in the Performance Package 4.0, alongside the aforementioned lawnmowers and the boxers and the and also a little travel bag for the whole lot as well. It's a
very well proportioned bag. I use it all the time. Anyway, reminder: Cricket Pod. Use the code. Put those words in the other way around. Use the code Cricket Pod at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. Check out the show notes for more. England v Bangladesh. I've told you what happened. The talking points that I have. England's bowling's looking pretty good.
Yep.
Archer is really fast.
Yeah.
Curran has developed even further as a white ball bowler. And actually looks like a threat early in the innings now. Jason Roy's had a little resurgence. And I think Salt and Vince are the big losers of the tour. Where would you like to start?
I think you've covered it all. Yeah. So thanks everyone for listening to the Cricket Podcast. I think so. Yeah, I agree with that analysis. I think that is fair. The interesting point for me was both Milan and Roy getting tons in those games.
Yeah,
very different tons. Milan single-handedly pretty much dragging England over the line in that first game when very, very close to losing it. And then Roy making the most perhaps of a slightly better batting deck, although it was only he and Buttler that really looked remotely comfortable in that game. But he staked his claim, so he's got a century in each of England's last 2 one-day series now. And I would say those are the two that are probably vying for the opening spot alongside Johnny Bairstow when it comes to the World Cup. So quite interesting for both of them to have made a mark. And would you agree with that? Do you think that's where either of those are likely to play?
I think that. I don't know. I actually didn't have Milan in my 11 full stop. And because I was trying to do this on the train, and now that you mention it, I think I might have just forgotten. I think it's a really tricky one. We've actually been asked by Vivek on Twitter, like, how does Bairstow get in the team? And I think Bairstow is pretty nailed on to open the batting.
Right back in.
One or more of Roy and Milan don't get in the team. My 11, Max, or this is the one I haven't. This isn't necessarily the 11 that I think they should play. This is the 11 that I came up with on the train back from work. So it's a first draft, if you like. And I'm kind of guessing what I think they will play as well, rather than
what you think
necessarily
is right.
who I would pick. I've gone Roy, Bairstow, Joe Root.
What a player he would be.
Stokes, Brook, Buttler, Moeen, Curran, Archer, Wood, Rashid.
Yeah.
Where do you fit on that? Now, I think there are a few areas. I hope I've picked enough players. I'll count that up and I'll throw you a question. Like, do you think I'm off the mark big time on any of those from an England point of view? And do you think they need an extra bowler? Because I believe that is 40 overs of pure bowling with Moeen and Stokes and Root, I guess, making up the numbers. But I will count the number of players.
Yeah.
While you do that.
I think it's there or thereabouts. There's a question about Stokes, isn't there? Obviously, he's at the moment he's retired. The dominant thinking, I suppose, is that as soon as England come knocking, he'll be like, "Yeah, all right, I'll come and play." But his knee is a mess. Like, he didn't bowl at the end of the New Zealand series. He's said he's going to play in the IPL. So they're going to have to manage that some way. Then we've got the Ashes, and that's going to be huge. And then
then he has a month off.
You've got there's a month off. Is that going to be? What's his, what state's he going to be in after all that cricket, basically, is the question. So whether he wants to come back and play in the ODI isn't, well, I'm sure he'll want to, but whether he's going to be in a place where he can do himself justice and really provide the overs that England are going to need, I think that's a question. I think, given it's in India, Liam Livingstone might be considered just because of his spin and the fact that he can be a matchup bowler. So that's probably another one to think about. But I do feel like if England don't have Stokes, they are going to be struggling. They are going to have to find basically two bowlers to bowl 5 and 5, 6 and 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that is quite often the case.
Well, I mean, you can
get away with that with spin in India is the other thing.
I think that is if in a world where Stokes doesn't play, I think probably they play Livingstone and Moeen and Root have to pick up those overs.
Root hasn't bowled much in ODIs.
All right. Well, I mean, he's sort of the emergency, isn't he? You should be able to get through 10 overs with Moeen and Livingstone. I think in most circumstances, they're both pretty capable bowlers. It's not. It's there'll be worse 10 over combos of bowling at the World Cup than those two. Or I suppose you go for a full bowler and you play Woakes instead of Stokes and bring him in, or Woakes instead of Brook maybe, and move everyone up the order a little bit. I think that's a little bit weak and
bit of a long tail.
Well, it's also really he's not really so much a tail ender Woakes, is he? It's just like,
no, you've got a long lower order there, haven't you?
That's what it is. Then suddenly Moeen, Curran, Woakes does feel like,
and then you're losing
of that type player.
You're losing what sort of Moeen is best at, which is he is one of the best in ODI cricket at the end of the innings. Like that is where he is an absolute asset to the England side. Yeah, and the further he moves up, the more he gets missed out. And even Sam Curran's been filling that role a little bit as well. So you don't want them too high. Yeah, I agree. So I think the more batters and the extra spinner is probably the way to go. But it's not far off.
Overall, I think it looks like a pretty good team, though. Yeah, I do. So I think right now India are the favourites, aren't they? And Australia are sort of sniffing around second place as well. But when you do see the team written down like that, and arguably some of them are past their absolute peak in ODI cricket, but the peak was so high that kind of now, even if you end up with Roy and Root, who hasn't played any ODI cricket, and Stokes, who's got one knee, I don't think, and Bairstow's coming back from a broken leg, I don't think you look at those four and you think you think there's a clear weakness there. Like it's still probably the best or second best top four in the world, especially now that Roy has started to use his feet a little bit again.
And they're all pretty much all those ones that are that aren't playing much ODI cricket are basically playing one-day cricket in the test matches at the moment. So
then there's that, and then most of these guys as well have got a lot of experience playing in India recently. In the IPL, or they will be going in the case of Bairstow and. Not Bairstow, in the case of Root and Brook.
Yeah, even Reece Topley is going to be down there. Will Jacks is going to be there. I
just need to reset my headphones. You're going to have to make a long point about something which I will not hear.
Okay. So, I mean, I think with England, it's just they're in a situation where it's quite a nice problem to have. And I think the one thing that has been such a key part of England's middle order as well in the last 5 years leading up to that 2019 World Cup win is probably Owen Morgan in the middle, and what he provides as someone who can get things going again, someone who can nurdle it around if needed to, someone who can recover, and someone who can blast the ball all over the place. And Harry Brook feels to me like someone who can come in and just be an almost direct replacement for that skill set that England are missing. So that's a real bonus as well. In the one thing that I think England really struggled with in that transitional period after Morgan lost it a bit and retired, we seem to have magically found again, just right-handed version.
I do think to round this off, and then we'll talk maybe just for a second about Bangladesh. I do think it's going to be quite tough on Roy or Milan or Sol or Jax or Duckett.
So there's a few people who are going to miss out on that.
Or Livingston or quite a few of those guys to not make it in the team. And there might be an argument that one or two of them would do better than
Duckett's an interesting one as well. He's the kind of person that could make it on the plane just as a horse for courses. Yeah,
but it's such a strong side with a lot of pedigree, and I don't know. Yeah. I think I think 2019 they were heirs anointed in a way, weren't they? And we went about it kind of a hard. They didn't win the World Cup in a statement way, if you like.
Yeah,
but they were I think quite clearly the best team in the years running up to that. This one not so clear, but they might still have the best team, I think. When you get but
India will be looking to make it 5 host victories in a row.
Oh well, yeah, they will have a good chance. Bangladesh, what did you make of them? Anything you liked or disliked?
Very, very much classic Bangladesh, really, wasn't it? It was it's exactly what you come to expect from them. The biggest surprise, I think, for everyone was that they won the toss and put England in that second match, especially having lost the first one. If they wanted to win the series, realistically, their best chance as a team, as we always know, is bat first, try and get 250-ish, maybe up to 300 if it goes well, and try and squeeze the chasing side out of it on slowish pitches that turn a bit. They basically did that in the first game, but for obviously Milan's heroics and Rashid chipping in at the end, and they did do that in the third game. So they're following a blueprint that they've always followed. They've got a fairly decent side for doing that in one-day cricket. We've given them pelters in T20s for the way they approach it. They just don't bat quickly enough. But in one day, as they've got longer to try and get a sort of a reasonable total, and they've got bowlers who are dangerous in spinning conditions, and some top class players. And you've got Shakib, you've got Tamim Iqbal still knocking around. Litton Das is a decent player as well. So I mean, they're dangerous. They'll be a tricky side to play at the World Cup, absolutely. And I think going to Bangladesh has been a really valuable experience for the England side. Obviously, a lot of the main batters weren't there, so they haven't all had the benefit. But it's conditions that you should experience, and a way of playing that you need to get used to trying to overcome in order to win games of cricket. I think Bangladesh, they're a decent side. Bangladesh, I think they will be one of the harder teams to play out of sort of that middling group in the World Cup.
I think that they'll have their moments, won't they? Right, Matt, so we're going to take another very quick break, and then we will come back. We'll do the Women's Premier League. I want to call it the Whipple. I'm sure I'm not the first person to come up with that, but the WPL.
The Whipple.
And I think we've got 1 or 2 questions.
All right.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.